Good news, everybody.
We're back, baby.
Alrighty, so this time, to celebrate the podcast coming back, we also are celebrating Futurama coming back. I was so excited when Futurama came back a couple weeks ago that we did an episode where me and Matt talked about it because he had never seen Futurama.
Not really.
So I figured it was the perfect entry point for him to get into Futurama and tell me what he thinks, because they're coming back fresh, rebooted, and technical difficulties, that was all for naught.
Yeah.
Come to find out, we're doing this. And also, Mike, you never watched Futurama.
Yeah, this is true.
Of all the two people, if I had to pick two people in the world that I would expect to have never seen Futurama, I never would have picked you two. I don't yeah. But
fair.
So
I know a lot of people that have watched Futurama and have recommended it to me, and yet for some weird reason I've never done it until now.
So before we get into the episodes that we were going to talk about, little backstory. I watched Futurama. I saw the first episode of Futurama when it aired, but I was at a bar. It was playing on the TV. I didn't get it. I didn't find it interesting. So I ignored it. Fast forward a couple years later, it got canceled. Got picked up by Adult Swim. They started airing the first season or two every night. And I started watching it and realized, holy crap, this show is hilarious. And I think what happened was, in that year to 2 year span, I was a kind of not in the same headspace. There was a thing going on, involving buildings and stuff, me having to go on a year-long vacation, dangerous in between. But then I watched it religiously. I watched it religiously on Adult Swim, and due to the intense popularity and the ratings they were getting on Adult Swim, they brought the show back. Fox started making new episodes, and they did for a few years, and then they canceled it again. And then, so it went to Adult Swim, and they started doing new episodes for a couple years, and then they canceled it. And then it was gone for a couple years. And then it came back alive again on Comedy Central. This would have been around 2014, 2015-ish. And it got a couple seasons. And then they canceled it again. And in between the cancellations, there were a couple movies that were really good that are part of the canon, and the new seasons always pick up. And so, that being said, the show's been canceled and revived like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that a new studio opens up, produces the show for 2 years, realizes why it got canceled last time, and cancels it.
No,
comes along and is like, oh, that show is great. And then about 2 years later, he realizes why it got canceled and cancels it again.
No, with the exception of Comedy Central, it's always been the same studio. because Fox, which is part of
Okay.
Hulu. So it was Fox, and
So-
Cartoon Network is part of that same company. So, because they'd throw stuff over there, just whatever, because we can put it on our other channel and do reruns, and we don't have to do any agreements. So it was always Fox, with the exception of Comedy Central, which is Viacom. So,
Okay.
and then now that it's back, it's Fox again, because Hulu, because Disney owns all of the Fox TV stuff.
Right.
And Hulu. So now it's officially a
Well-
Hulu show. So that being said, I had you guys watch episode 1.
Mhm.
2 is optional. And then last week's episode 5.
Correct.
And 5 specifically for which I assume are now very obvious. So let's get into first impressions after watching episode 1. What do you guys think?
I'll start. I felt that I was immediately thrown into a universe that, due to the meme of it and all that, I was familiar with, yet unfamiliar with. And its intro, which basically said that there were things that were supposed to happen or did happen, and they decided to reset it because that is what they did. Because then they started to basically say, this is all about it being reset. And this is really, that's the joke. It's like things can't help but be reset. And the second half of the episode about having to binge watch, which would
Binging is bad.
binging is bad. Don't do it. And yeah.
Yeah, so first impressions for me were, okay, yes, I've seen all of the memes and stuff. I didn't ever always quite understand them because of the lack of knowledge of the characters. And I felt the same thing was happening for episode 1. I didn't understand the characters, and I felt like that knowledge was necessary to appreciate it, because I absolutely didn't
So
at all.
episode 1, I appreciated because for those of us that were deep into Futurama, that know the backstory, know the jokes, there were plenty of things that were just throwaway. There was a lot of fan service,
Mhm.
but it wasn't integral to the story. It's stuff that you might have noticed, hey, I don't understand that, but it didn't matter. Or stuff that you didn't even notice, that once you get through, and if you did another search and then you come back, you would find absolutely hilarious. Just because, I didn't notice, or she said, or he said, or they said this thing, and now that's funny because it's a reference. I think they handled the... I'm split on how they handled the reset. Because when they ended things, they ended it on a specific note, which was both frustrating and satisfying at the same time. Because basically you had 10, 15 years of Fry doing a thing just gets wiped away by... the professor resets everything and basically makes all that pointless. So there's futility. But really what this episode was this episode was a primer for anybody coming in, both new and old, that do not expect to be able to binge this, because binging is bad. You will not get this all at once. Number 2, it's okay that it was canceled, because things need to be canceled from time to time. which was also telling everybody this show isn't going to be around for very long. They might be like 2 seasons, but it's going to get canceled. And don't be mad because we warned you. Good things have to be canceled. But they also didn't waste a lot of time going, hey, remember? Oh, for your new, just, hey, this thing that happened, now we got to explain it to you. They didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
No.
It was a ridiculous episode. It was not a great episode of Futurama, but
That's
it was a great episode for us who have had this Futurama size hole in our soul for the last 10 years or so. It was exciting to be able to watch. Now,
Okay.
we got to episode 2. Episode 2, I know, Matt, you kind of appreciated.
I really enjoyed episode 2. We don't have to talk very much about it, but it felt like a good sci-fi show to me. And
So for me, episode 2 actually had stuff that was not just meh.
Mhm.
Like it was overall, I didn't particularly enjoy the episode. The first episode, I didn't enjoy at all. I just felt like everything fell flat. There was like 2 things that I thought were clever or enjoyable in it. And that's about it. The second episode, I did start to see some interesting things happening. There were some humorous bits and things, so I didn't dislike the second episode, where I like actually completely disliked the first episode. And if you hadn't, said, "Hey, watch 1, 2, 5," I would have probably stopped after 1 and just thought, "This show sucks. I'm never going to enjoy it." But yeah, so the second episode, it warmed me up to it enough that I was like, okay, I don't feel like I'm gonna hate myself for watching one more episode.
So, episode 2 is actually a previously on episode. So, when this is tying up a storyline from 20 years ago, which is why they specify that, like, when they show you when they have their flashbacks, and those are actually scenes from the episode 20 years ago. So when she says, "I'm not ready to be a mom," you say, "It's okay. It'll be 20 years before they're ready," right?
Mhm.
And this, while I don't particularly love this episode, it illustrates what I do love about Futurama is they set stuff up. And they will, when they set it up, they had no expectation that they would be around in 20 years.
Right.
20 years later to be able to pick it up. But everything they set up, they will pay it off eventually.
Okay.
And, at the time, that 20 years, that was their cop out. That was how they get around having to continue that storyline.
Right.
And then 20 years later, they went, hey, you know what? We said this thing. Let's go with it. And so this episode also kind of shows that the show has a heart.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all slapstick. Not every episode is serious. Not every episode is dumb.
Right.
And usually a lot of the episodes will be some sort of commentary on things that are currently happening. Like there's an episode, I think it's episode 3, where they do it's about Bitcoin mining, and the way they approach it is wonderful. The 5th episode that I wanted you guys to watch is specifically what is it a parody of, both of you?
Mamazon.
Mamazon
What could
is
that
So,
Amazon.
possibly be?
if
I
you're
don't
not
know.
familiar, and it's not really that important, but Mom is the manufacturer of all the robots, going back to the very beginning of the season or series. It's Mom's Friendly Robots. There's a lot of history between Mom and the professor and all of our cast. We have spent a lot of time with Mom,
Okay.
but none of that is important because Mama's on. And I watched this episode, and I knew you both needed to watch this, partly because Mike, your love of Amazon, and Matt, your hatred of Amazon.
Correct.
And the thing that they do brilliantly here is I'm pretty sure they catered to both of you.
Mm.
Both, this is like, no matter whether you love Amazon or you hate Amazon, you watch this and go, this is good.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. Like it is parodying the the way my life is with Prime, right? Like ordering stuff and having it show up quickly, and you know, spending, you know, buying way more things than you intend to, and not even knowing what you're expecting when packages show up at your door. um I definitely recognize that aspect of it and appreciate it as a critical parody of my life, and realize that, yeah, they nailed me right there. I totally get that.
What,
You know, they walk into the room and there's like 8 beds in the one room. There's only 3 people that live there, and it's like, I'm like,
Oh.
I
And-
haven't bought multiple extra beds, but I have
See,
bought a bunch of stuff that doesn't make sense.
they parodied your life, and they also addressed Matt's biggest fear, the unending expansion.
Correct.
The part where the one executive says, we put 364,000 businesses out of companies out of business last week, or something like
Right.
that. Yeah, and to be clear, I totally appreciate it in both respects. And I'll be totally honest, uh since, you know, since we've been airing less since then, that last, like, what, 3-4 months, I've started to shy away from my preference for Amazon.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now
For-
the pretty standard base, the machines and the company that's taking over the world kind of thing. It's a familiar trope, but this was a nice way of doing it. I enjoyed the parody exactly making it Mamazon. Is makes a lot of sense. I loved it how it was like everything was, oh man, that's so interesting, but I get it cheaper on Amazon. Oh, I said I can get that tomorrow on Amazon. And it's like I hate that. It's right in front of you, but no, I can get it. So, like,
The thing
no.
I loved was there was that sense of impending doom
Mhm.
as it expands and it expands until they realize, wait, the entire universe is inside,
Exactly.
so it makes no difference.
Oh no, we're stuck inside of this universe.
Yeah.
We'll never
no.
get out.
So his statement was something along the lines of, everything sucks exactly the way it did before.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you know, that was, so this was the episode where I felt like, at the end of the episode, I was like, okay, there's some cleverness going on here. I can appreciate that this is an entertaining show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that they pointed out a lot of interesting things, and yeah, I agree. There's nothing to worry about Amazon. It's just gonna consume our lives to the point that we don't even realize that our lives are consumed in. Then it will be okay.
So I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked Matt before, is would you be willing to start at the beginning with us and start watching Futurama from the beginning.
One episode at a time, talk about it, kind of thing.
Like a weekly
And
episode?
I will preface, hold on, I'll preface if people actually want it. So you that you're watching this or listening to this, you need to let us know in the description or whatever. Would you be interested in a watch through of Futurama? Because they've never seen it. I'm willing to rewatch it, which is huge. If you know me, I don't like rewatching anything, but I'm willing to rewatch with them. Like Matt, you said you were potentially willing, right?
We're absolutely willing, especially since it's short, sweet, and just fun, entertaining. It looks like it's just a little thing.
1 30-minute episode a week. That I can do.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know how long I can do it.
Well, that's the thing is we'll take it week by week. See,
exactly.
We've rebooted the podcast, the long form podcast, so we have a spot where we can put in there Futurama, and then we know next week watch Futurama episode 1 or whatever. We could discuss that, but we'll table that for a few weeks. So we'll let the people speak. So at this point, with the 3 episodes that you have watched, are you starting to understand what people love about the show? Not necessarily do you love the show, but are you starting to kind of get an idea of why? Okay.
Yeah, I think, like I was saying, I think episode 5 was the one that really told me, like, that showed me that there was something actually to the show. I think episode 1 was kind of, in my opinion, it was a throwaway. It was, you know, I know what it was doing.
It was a primer. It was basically a primer.
People. Yeah, like it really was for people that knew what was going on. Like it didn't mean anything to a new person.
Well, but it was giving you instruction for what to expect.
Sure.
As a new person.
Right. Yeah. But it wasn't meaningful. Like it gives you some stuff. The second episode, I feel like there wasn't, like, I would have needed more context to understand the value of what was happening. Episode 5, though, I actually found it had a lot to it that made the characters interesting, made what was going on interesting, and I actually didn't hate the time invested. I enjoyed it, though I wouldn't say it would compel me to watch the rest of the season.
Okay.
Or really probably any more. Like now I might be more inclined to say, oh, it's on, I'll watch it with a friend or something. Right. If my friend's watching it. Whereas before I would just do something different. So yeah, I mean, a much warmer, but still very lukewarm feeling towards the series.
Okay, so me, the feeling that I have that it's trying to convey is that our problems are going to be the same problems in the future. We're going to have to deal with them forever, and it's in the banality of dealing with it, because we have to deal with it now and deal with the future. It is humorous to view that and. to take what you already are dealing with and going, yep, it's gonna be doing the same thing for the. But that being said, the critical eye is good too. I love it. Yeah. I do enjoy it.
So I'm curious. So with this experiment,
okay,
you guys are starting in season 11. Which realistically, like I said, that episode 1 was the way it was because you expect that there's a lot of people coming in that, like, say people my children's age, they're not going back. They're not going to watch 11 seasons.
Right.
So create a kind of soft entry to guide people into it. But I'm curious now that you've started here, what you guys will think going back to the first.
An excellent question. I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm interested to find that out. Bottom line, I was a little bit worried when they said that Futurama was coming back. I was silently hopeful, but I had my expectations set very low to avoid breaking my heart. Because I don't know if I could take that if they'd come back and done it wrong. So I'm happy it's back, and it's the show I remember, I know and love. It's the smartest, funny show on TV. You have to watch the other episodes.
Maybe
There's a bunch of science
Matt
jokes
and
in
I-
there that are even above my head.
Okay.
Maybe someday Matt and I will agree.
Yes.
We shall see.
Yeah. Yeah, it once you get through that first couple episodes of the first season, then it really takes off. But yeah, okay. Well, I guess that's what we think about that. Let us know what you think in the chat. Should they watch? Should we check in with watch through from the beginning?
Yeah, we got 3 very different perspectives. So let us know which one of us is right. Hint, it's me.
Since when? Only when I'm not around.
Yeah.
All right.